The vast emptiness of space stretched out before the Zarthan fleet. Hundreds of massive ships floated silently, their sleek silver hulls reflecting the distant starlight. Inside the command center of the flagship, Admiral Kexlor stood motionless, his four eyes fixed on the main view screen. "Status report," he commanded, his voice steady despite the growing worry in his heart. Lieutenant Vira, a young officer with bright purple skin, turned from her console. "Sir, our navigation systems are still offline. We've been adrift for 3 solar cycles now." Kexlor nodded slowly, his antennae twitching with concern. The Zarthan fleet, pride of their civilization, was lost in an unknown sector of space. What had started as a routine exploration mission had turned into a potential disaster. "Keep trying to reboot the nav systems," he ordered, "and send out another distress signal." As Vera carried out his commands, Kexler's mind raced. They had left their home planet, Zarthania, full of hope and excitement. Their mission was to chart new star systems and perhaps find other intelligent life. Now they faced the very real possibility of never seeing home again. In the lower decks of the flagship, the situation was growing tense. Tamlik, a maintenance worker, wiped sweat from his brow as he struggled to repair yet another malfunctioning food synthesizer. "How's it looking, Tam?" asked his colleague, Nix. Tamlik shook his head. "Not good. This is the 3rd one to break down today. If we can't fix them, we'll run out of food within a month." The news spread quickly through the ship, whispered in corridors and shared in worried glances. The once excited crew was now faced with a grim reality. They were stranded, their resources dwindling, in a part of space they didn't recognize. Back on the bridge, Admiral Kexlor received more troubling reports. The life support systems were showing signs of strain, and the fuel reserves were lower than expected. He knew he had to address the crew to provide some hope in this dark hour. With a heavy heart, Kexlor activated the ship-wide communication system. His voice echoed through every vessel in the fleet. "My fellow Zarthans, this is Admiral Kexlor. I know you are all aware of our current situation. We are lost, yes, but we are not defeated. Our ancestors faced challenges just as great, and they persevered. We will do the same." He paused, choosing his next words carefully. "I promise you, we will find a way home. Our scientists are working tirelessly to repair our systems. Until then, we must conserve our resources and look out for one another. Stay strong, stay united." As Kexler's words faded, a mix of emotions swept through the fleet. Some felt reassured by their leader's confidence, while others couldn't shake the fear that gripped them. In the medical bay of one of the smaller ships, Dr. Leary tended to a patient suffering from anxiety. "Deep breaths," she soothed, her gentle touch calming the panicked crew member. "Remember, stress only makes things worse. We need to stay calm and work together." Days passed, and the situation grew more dire. The fleet drifted aimlessly through the star-studded blackness. Each passing hour brought them further from known space and deeper into uncharted territory. Admiral Kexler spent sleepless nights poring over star charts, trying to find any recognizable patterns. But the stars here were alien, forming constellations he had never seen before. As hope began to fade, something unexpected happened. Lieutenant Vera, monitoring the long-range sensors, suddenly straightened in her chair. "Admiral," she called out, excitement in her voice, "I'm picking up a signal. It's faint, but it's there." Kexlor rushed to her station. "What kind of signal? Is it one of ours?" Vera shook her head, her eyes wide with wonder. "No, sir. It's like nothing I've ever seen before. I think it might be from an unknown civilization." A hush fell over the bridge. Could it be true? Had their misfortune led them to the very discovery they had set out to make? As the crew worked to strengthen the signal, a tiny spark of hope ignited in Admiral Kexler's hearts. Perhaps, just perhaps, their salvation lay not in finding their way home, but in making contact with whoever was sending this mysterious transmission. Little did the Zarthans know, billions of light-years away, on a small blue planet called Earth, a group of scientists were about to make a discovery that would change the course of two civilizations forever. Dr. Sarah Chen stared at her computer screen, her eyes wide with disbelief. The young astrophysicist had been working late at the SETI Institute in California, analyzing data from deep space radio telescopes. What she saw now made her heart race. "This can't be right," she muttered, quickly rechecking her calculations. But the numbers didn't lie. Hidden in the static of cosmic background radiation was a pattern, a signal, and it wasn't random. Sarah's fingers flew across the keyboard as she refined the data. The more she looked, the clearer it became. This was no natural phenomenon. This was a message. With shaking hands, she reached for her phone and dialed her boss, Dr. James Wilson. "James, you need to see this. Now." Within an hour, the quiet SETI lab was buzzing with activity. Scientists huddled around computers, talking excitedly. Dr. Wilson stood at the center, his usually calm demeanor replaced by barely contained excitement. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, "I believe we've just made first contact." The news spread like wildfire. By morning, every major news outlet was reporting on the story. "Alien signal detected," screamed the headlines. Social media exploded with theories and reactions. In Washington, D.C., President Olivia Thompson sat in the Oval Office, surrounded by her top advisors. The Secretary of Defense, a stern-faced man named General Roberts, was speaking. "Madam President, we need to consider the possibility that this could be a threat. We should mobilize our defenses, just in case." President Thompson shook her head. "No, General. We won't meet a potential new friend with guns drawn." She turned to Dr. Emily Sato, the Chief Science Advisor. "Dr. Sato, what's your take on this?" Dr. Sato adjusted her glasses. "The signal appears to be a distress call, Madam President. Our best linguists and cryptographers are working on decoding it, but the preliminary analysis suggests these aliens are in trouble." The President nodded, a determined look in her eyes. "Then we help them. Call an emergency UN session. We're going to need the whole world for this." As governments around the globe scrambled to respond, the scientific community worked tirelessly to understand the alien message. At NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, engineers and scientists worked around the clock. Dr. Mark Goldstein, a brilliant young engineer, had a breakthrough. "The signal contains coordinates," he explained to his colleagues. "They're stranded in the Andromeda Galaxy, about 2.5 million light-years away." The room fell silent as the enormity of the situation sank in. Humanity had never ventured beyond its own solar system. Reaching a ship millions of light-years away seemed impossible. But humans are nothing if not determined. In labs and universities across the world, scientists began working on the problem. How could they reach the stranded aliens? Old theories about faster-than-light travel were dusted off. New ones were proposed. At SpaceX headquarters, Elon Musk called an emergency meeting. "We're going to build a ship that can reach them," he declared. "Cost is no object. We'll use every resource we have." Similar scenes played out at other private space companies and government agencies worldwide. The race to save the aliens had begun. Public opinion was divided. Many were excited at the prospect of meeting aliens. Others were scared. Protests broke out in some cities, with signs reading "Earth First" and "Don't Trust Aliens." But for every protester, there were 100 volunteers. People from all walks of life offered to help in any way they could. Retired engineers came out of retirement. Students skipped classes to join research teams. The world was uniting in a way it never had before. 2 months after the initial discovery, a breakthrough came. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, a physicist in Japan, proposed a radical new theory of space travel. It was risky, untested, but it might just work. At the UN, world leaders gathered to make a decision. The cost would be astronomical. The risks were high. But the potential rewards, saving an alien civilization, advancing human knowledge, proving humanity's worth on a cosmic scale, were too great to ignore. President Thompson stood before the assembly, her voice firm and clear. Today, we choose to reach for the stars. Not for conquest, not for glory, but to lend a helping hand to those in need. Today, we prove that humanity's greatest strength is not our technology, but our compassion. The vote was unanimous. Operation Cosmic Rescue was a go. As preparations began for the most ambitious mission in human history, a message was beamed towards the stranded alien fleet. In every language on Earth, it said the same thing. Hold on. We're coming. The world buzzed with activity as Operation Cosmic Rescue swung into high gear. In every corner of the globe, humans worked tirelessly to prepare for the most ambitious mission in history. At NASA's Kennedy Space Center, a massive new spacecraft took shape. Named Hope, it was unlike anything ever built before. Engineers from dozens of countries worked side by side, combining their knowledge and skills. Dr. Aisha Patel, the lead engineer, stood before a group of reporters. Hope is not just a spaceship, she explained, her eyes shining with pride. It's a symbol of what humanity can achieve when we work together. The ship was a marvel of technology. It incorporated Dr. Tanaka's revolutionary space-folding drive, allowing it to cover vast distances in the blink of an eye. Its hull was made of new, ultra-strong materials that could withstand the intense pressures of faster-than-light travel. Inside, the ship was equipped with advanced life support systems, powerful computers, and a host of scientific instruments. It even had a special communication array designed to translate alien languages in real time. As Hope neared completion, attention turned to selecting the crew. Millions of people from around the world volunteered, but only the best of the best would be chosen. After months of rigorous testing and interviews, the final crew was announced. Captain Maria Rodriguez, a decorated astronaut from Argentina with nerves of steel. Dr. Chen Wei, a brilliant Chinese chronobiologist, eager to study alien life. Engineer Oluwaseun Sun Adebayo, a Nigerian prodigy who helped design Hope's engines. Dr. Svetlana Petrova, a Russian linguist specializing in theoretical alien communication. Medical officer Dr. John Smith, an Australian doctor with experience in extreme environments. The world watched as the crew began their training. They underwent grueling physical tests, spent hours in flight simulators, and studied everything known about the alien signal. Captain Rodriguez addressed the media after a particularly tough day of training. "We're pushing ourselves to the limit," she said, wiping sweat from her brow. "But when I think about those aliens out there, waiting for help, I know it's worth it." Meanwhile, governments and private companies raced to solve other challenges. SpaceX developed new spacesuits that could withstand the unknown environments the crew might face. The European Space Agency created advanced food synthesizers to keep the crew fed on their long journey. In labs around the world, scientists worked on ways to communicate with the aliens. They analyzed the distress signal, looking for clues about the alien language and culture. Dr. Petrova made a breakthrough when she realized the signal contained mathematical sequences. "Math is universal," she explained to her colleagues. "It could be the key to understanding each other." As the launch date approached, the world held its breath. Would the mission succeed? What would they find out there in the depths of space? The night before the launch, the 5 crew members gathered for a quiet dinner. They came from different countries, spoke different languages, but they were united in their mission. Captain Rodriguez raised her glass in a toast. "To hope," she said, "and to the spirit of humanity that brought us here." The others echoed her toast, their faces a mix of excitement and nervous anticipation. Early the next morning, Hope stood gleaming on the launch pad. Millions watched on screens around the world as the countdown began. President Thompson's voice crackled over the radio. "Godspeed, Hope. You carry with you the dreams and well-wishes of all humanity." Captain Rodriguez's steady voice replied, "Thank you, Madam President. We won't let Earth down." The engines roared to life. Slowly at first, then with increasing speed, hope rose into the sky. People cheered, cried, and hugged each other as the ship disappeared into the blue. In mission control, Dr. Patel watched the readings with bated breath. Everything was going according to plan. As Hope reached orbit, she allowed herself a small smile. Phase 1 complete, she announced. Hope is ready to begin its journey to the stars. As the ship prepared for its first spacefold jump, the crew looked out at the Earth one last time. It looked so small, so fragile from up here. They were leaving everything they knew behind, venturing into the unknown to help a species they'd never met. Captain Rodriguez's voice came over the ship's intercom. "All right, team. This is what we've trained for. Let's go make history." With a flash of light, Hope vanished from Earth's orbit, beginning its incredible journey across the universe. The starship Hope hurtled through the cosmos, its advanced engines humming with power. Inside, the 5-person crew worked tirelessly, monitoring systems and preparing for the challenges ahead. Captain Maria Rodriguez floated in the command center, her eyes fixed on the main view screen. Stars streaked by in dazzling lines of light as the ship performed its spacefold jumps. "Status report," she called out, her voice steady despite the excitement bubbling inside her. Dr. Chen Wei, the xenobiologist, responded first. "All biological systems are stable, Captain. Our suspended animation pods are ready if we need them for the long stretches." Engineer Sun Adebayo chimed in next, his fingers dancing over his console. "Engines are performing beautifully, Captain. We're making better time than expected." As the crew settled into their routines, they faced their first major challenge. A massive cloud of cosmic dust loomed ahead, threatening to damage the ship's sensitive systems. "Evasive maneuvers," Captain Rodriguez ordered. Sun's hands flew across the controls, guiding Hope through the treacherous cloud. For tense minutes, the ship shuddered and creaked. Warning alarms blared as particles pelted the hull. But Hope's advanced shielding held, and they emerged on the other side unscathed. As the danger passed, the crew let out a collective sigh of relief. Dr. John Smith, the medical officer, couldn't help but laugh. "Well, that was exciting. Who's up for a game of zero chess?" The journey wasn't all danger and excitement, though. Long stretches of time passed with little to do but wait and watch the stars go by. The crew found ways to keep themselves occupied. Dr. Svetlana Petrova spent hours in the ship's library, poring over the alien signal data. "I think I'm starting to see patterns," she told the others during a meal. "Their language seems to have a musical quality to it." Chen Wei set up a small lab where he conducted experiments, preparing for their eventual encounter with alien life. "I can't wait to see what their biology is like," he said, his eyes shining with curiosity. Sun kept himself busy by fine-tuning the ship's systems. He even managed to increase the efficiency of the spacefold drive, shaving weeks off their journey time. As they traveled farther from Earth than any humans had ever been, the crew faced unexpected challenges. Strange cosmic phenomena tested both their ship and their resolve. One day, alarms blared as Hope approached what looked like a tear in space itself. Energy readings went off the charts as the ship was pulled toward the anomaly. "All hands, brace for impact," Captain Rodriguez shouted. The crew strapped themselves into their seats as Hope was sucked into the cosmic rift. For what seemed like an eternity, the ship tumbled through a kaleidoscope of impossible colors and mind-bending shapes. The crew's stomachs churned, and their minds reeled from the assault on their senses. Then, as suddenly as it began, it was over. Hope emerged on the other side, systems miraculously intact. As the crew recovered, they made an astounding discovery. "Captain," Sillin called out, his voice filled with awe. "According to our instruments, we've just traveled over 1,000,000 light-years in a matter of minutes." The cosmic rift had acted as an interstellar shortcut, bringing them closer to their goal than they ever thought possible. As exciting as this was, it also meant they were now truly in uncharted territory. As days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, the crew of Hope became more than just colleagues. They became a family, supporting each other through the ups and downs of their incredible journey. They celebrated birthdays with zero-gravity parties, shared stories of their homes and families, and marveled together at the wonders they saw in deep space. But always, in the back of their minds, was the mission. Somewhere out there, an alien civilization was in trouble. Every light year brought Hope closer to its rendezvous with destiny. One quiet shift, as Captain Rodriguez was about to hand over command to Dr. Smith for the night, a soft beep came from the long-range sensors. The captain's eyes widened as she read the display. Her heart raced as she realized what it meant. With trembling fingers, she activated the ship-wide comm. "All hands to stations," she announced, her voice a mix of excitement and apprehension. "We've picked up the alien fleet on sensors. We're going to have our first contact in less than 24 hours." As the crew rushed to their positions, a mix of emotions filled the air. Fear, excitement, curiosity. All of these and more coursed through their veins. They had trained for this moment for months, but nothing could truly prepare them for what lay ahead. As Hope sped towards its rendezvous with the unknown, one thing was certain: history was about to be made. The crew of Hope stood at their stations, hearts pounding as the alien fleet came into view on the main screen. Hundreds of massive ships hung motionless against the backdrop of unfamiliar stars. Captain Maria Rodriguez took a deep breath. "This is it, team. Dr. Petrova, are you ready to send the greeting message?" Dr. Svetlana Petrova nodded, her fingers hovering over the communication console. "Ready, Captain. The universal translator is online and the message is loaded." "Send it," Rodriguez ordered. A tense silence filled the bridge as they waited for a response. Seconds ticked by, feeling like hours. Suddenly, the comm system crackled to life. Strange, musical sounds filled the air, quickly followed by the translator's monotone voice. "Unknown vessel, identify yourself. Are you friend or foe?" Rodriguez straightened her uniform and stepped forward. "This is Captain Maria Rodriguez of the Earth ship Hope. We come in peace, responding to your distress signal." There was a pause, then another burst of alien speech. The translator struggled to keep up. "Earth? We know not of this place. How did you find us? Why have you come?" Dr. Chen Wei, the xenobiologist, couldn't contain his excitement. "Captain, their language patterns are fascinating. The translator is having trouble with some concepts, but it's working." Rodriguez nodded, then turned back to the comm. "We received your distress call. It took us some time to reach you, but we're here to help if we can." Another pause, longer this time. The crew held their breath, waiting. Finally, a new voice came through, deeper and more authoritative. "I am Admiral Kexler of the Zarthan Fleet. We appreciate your offer of assistance, but how can we trust you?" Engineer Sun Adebayo spoke up. "Captain, I have an idea. Maybe we could show them our ship's schematics. It might help build trust if they see we're not hiding anything." Rodriguez considered this for a moment, then nodded. "Good idea, son. Dr. Petrova, can you transmit a simplified schematic of Hope to the Zarthan fleet?" As the image was sent, the Bridge of Hope erupted in gasps of amazement. The main view screen had switched to show the interior of the Zarthan command ship. For the first time, humans laid eyes on an alien species. Admiral Kexler was tall and slender, with 4 arms and iridescent blue skin. 4 eyes blinked in surprise as he studied the humans on his own screen. "Fascinating," he said, his translator now working more smoothly. "You are so different from us, yet you came all this way to help. Perhaps there is hope for the galaxy after all." Over the next few hours, the two crews exchanged information. The humans learned about the Zarthan's plight. Their navigation systems had failed, leaving them stranded in unknown space. The Zarthans, in turn, marveled at the humans' determination to help a species they'd never met. Dr. John Smith, the medical officer, was particularly interested in the Zarthan's biology. "Admiral," he asked, Have any of your people fallen ill during your time adrift? Kexler's expression changed, showing what the humans guessed was concern. Yes, we have had some strange illnesses. Our medical teams are struggling to understand them. Smith's eyes lit up. With your permission, I'd like to come aboard and see if I can help. Our medical technology might be different enough to provide new insights. The Admiral hesitated, then nodded. Very well. We would be grateful for any assistance. As preparations were made for the first physical meeting between humans and Zarthans, excitement mixed with nervousness on both sides. Captain Rodriguez addressed her crew one last time before they boarded the shuttle to the alien ship. Remember your training, but also remember why we're here. We represent not just Earth, but the very best of humanity. Let's show the universe what that means. As the shuttle detached from Hope and made its way towards the massive Zarthan flagship, history was being written with every passing moment. Two civilizations, born under different suns and separated by unimaginable distances, were about to meet face to face. The future of both species, and perhaps the entire galaxy, would be forever changed by what happened next. As the airlock cycled and the doors began to open, humans and Zarthans alike held their breath, ready to step into a new era of interstellar cooperation. The airlock hissed open, and Captain Maria Rodriguez stepped onto the deck of the Zarthan flagship. She fought to keep her composure as she came face to face with Admiral Kexler and his crew. "Welcome aboard," Kexler said, his translator conveying a tone of warmth and curiosity. Rodriguez smiled, her heart racing with excitement. "Thank you, Admiral. We're honored to be here." As the rest of the Hope's crew joined her, they couldn't help but stare in wonder at their alien hosts. The Zarthans, in turn, seemed equally fascinated by the humans. Dr. Chenwei was the first to break the silence. "Your ship is amazing," he said, looking around at the organic-looking architecture. "The biomechanical integration is unlike anything we've seen." Kexler's 4 eyes blinked in surprise. "You understand our technology." Engineer Sun Adebayo stepped forward. "We got a lot to learn, but that's why we're here. To help and to learn from each other." With introductions made, the two crews got to work. The scale of the problem became clear as they toured the Zarthan fleet. Hundreds of ships, millions of aliens, all stranded in space. Dr. John Smith headed to the Zarthan medical bay with some of their doctors. He was shocked by what he found. "These illnesses," he muttered, looking at the alien patients, "they're like nothing I've ever seen." But Smith didn't give up. He worked tirelessly, combining Earth medicine with Zarthan biology. After days of research, he had a breakthrough. "It's the radiation from this part of space," he explained to the alien doctors. "Your bodies aren't used to it, but I think we can help." Meanwhile, Sun and the Zarthan engineers tackled the navigation problem. They discovered that the alien ship's systems had been disrupted by an unusual type of cosmic radiation. "If we recalibrate your sensors to account for this radiation," Sun explained, drawing diagrams for the alien engineers, "we should be able to get your navigation back online." The work was challenging. Human and Zarthan technology were very different. But day by day, progress was made. Ships were repaired, illnesses were treated, and hope began to grow. Dr. Svetlana Petrova spent her time with the Zarthan linguists, improving the translation systems and learning more about their culture. "Their language is like music," she told Captain Rodriguez during a break. "And their history, their art, it's all so beautiful and complex." As the days turned into weeks, the two species grew closer. They shared meals, swapped stories, and even tried to teach each other games. The Zarthans were particularly fond of chess, while the humans struggled to understand a Zarthan game that seemed to be played in 4 dimensions. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Cultural misunderstandings led to tense moments. One day, a young Zarthan engineer accidentally insulted Sun, not realizing that humans considered it rude to comment on skin color. Captain Rodriguez had to step in to calm things down. Remember, she told her crew, we're here as guests and helpers. We need to be patient and understanding. The Zarthans, too, had to adapt. They were used to a strict hierarchy, and the humans' more relaxed approach to authority sometimes confused them. But over time, both sides learned to appreciate their differences. As the weeks went by, the fleet slowly came back to life. Ship by ship, systems were repaired and brought back online. The sick were healed, and the Zarthans began to hope again. Finally, after a month of hard work, Admiral Kexlor called for a meeting with Captain Rodriguez and her crew. "Thanks to your help," he said, his voice filled with emotion. "We are ready to resume our journey. You have saved not just our lives, but our entire civilization." Rodriguez smiled, feeling a mix of pride and sadness. Their mission was coming to an end, but she had grown fond of the Zarthans. "It was our honor, Admiral. We came here to help, but we gained so much in return." Kexlor nodded, then surprised everyone by performing a Zarthan gesture of deep respect, a bow with all four arms crossed. "You have shown us the true meaning of compassion and cooperation. We will never forget this." As the humans prepared to return to Hope for their journey home, both crews gathered for a farewell ceremony. Gifts were exchanged, promises of future communication were made, and more than a few tears were shed, both human and Zarthan. Standing at the airlock one last time, Captain Rodriguez looked at her new alien friends. "This isn't goodbye," she said firmly. "It's the beginning of a new chapter for both our peoples." As Hope detached from the Zarthan flagship and the alien fleet prepared for departure, both humans and Zarthans knew that the universe would never be the same. A bridge had been built across the stars, opening up a future filled with possibilities. The starship Hope and the Zarthan fleet hung in space, their engines humming as they prepared for departure. Captain Maria Rodriguez stood on the bridge, watching the alien ships through the view screen. It was time to say goodbye, but it felt more like a new beginning. "Open a channel to Admiral Kexlor," she ordered, her voice steady despite the emotion she felt. Admiral Kexlor's face appeared on the screen, his four eyes blinking in what the humans now recognized as a smile. "Captain Rodriguez," he said warmly, "are you ready for the journey home?" Rodriguez nodded. "We are, Admiral. And you? Is your fleet prepared to continue its exploration?" "Thanks to you and your crew, we are," Kexlor replied. "But before we part ways, I have a proposal." The Admiral outlined his idea: a formal alliance between Earth and Zarthania. They would share knowledge, technology, and continue to explore the galaxy together. Rodriguez's eyes widened. This was beyond anything they had imagined when they set out on their rescue mission. "Admiral, I'm honored by your proposal. I'll need to discuss this with my superiors back on Earth, but I believe they'll be as excited as I am." As the two leaders finalized the details of their return journeys, the crews of both fleets were saying their own goodbyes. Dr. John Smith hugged his Zarthan medical colleagues, their initial awkwardness long forgotten. "Remember to keep an eye on those radiation levels," he reminded them. "And don't forget to try that Earth herbal tea I gave you. It works wonders for stress." Engineer Sun Adebayo was deep in conversation with the Zarthan chief engineer, Zixlor. They were excitedly discussing future collaborations. "Just think," Sun said, his eyes shining. "With our spacefold technology and your biomechanical systems, we could build ships that could explore the entire galaxy." Dr. Svetlana Petrova was recording final language lessons with her Zarthan counterparts. "Remember," she said in carefully practiced Zarthan, "context is key in human languages, and idioms will be your biggest challenge." As the hour of departure approached, both fleets gathered for one last joint ceremony. Captain Rodriguez and Admiral Kexlor stood side by side, addressing their crews. "Today marks not just the end of a rescue mission," Rodriguez began, "but the beginning of a new chapter in the history of both our peoples." Kexlor continued, "We came together as strangers, divided by vast distances and differences, We part as friends, united in our shared curiosity and hope for the future. The ceremony concluded with an exchange of gifts. The Zarthans presented the humans with a small but powerful piece of their biomechanical technology, while the humans offered a comprehensive database of Earth's scientific knowledge. As the crews returned to their ships, there were tears, laughter, and promises to stay in touch. The universe suddenly felt both vastly larger and incredibly smaller. Finally, it was time to leave. Hope's engines powered up, its advanced systems humming with energy. The Zarthan fleet's bioluminescent hulls glowed brightly, ready for their continued journey. Captain Rodriguez took her seat on the bridge, looking at her crew with pride. "Well, team," she said, ready to make history again. As Hope pulled away from the Zarthan fleet, both groups of ships flashed their lights in a final salute. Then, in a dazzling display of technology, they vanished into the depths of space. The humans heading back to Earth, the Zarthans continuing their exploration. The journey home was filled with excitement and anticipation. The crew of Hope knew they were returning as heroes, bearing gifts of knowledge and the promise of a new alliance that would change everything. As Earth finally came into view, a small blue marble hanging in the vastness of space, the crew felt a mix of joy and nostalgia. They were home, but part of them would always be out there among the stars. The ship was met with global celebration. Parades were held, medals were awarded, and the crew became instant celebrities. But more importantly, their mission had changed the course of human history. In the months that followed, Earth buzzed with activity. Scientists pored over the Zarthan data, making breakthrough after breakthrough. Engineers began incorporating alien concepts into new technologies. Linguists and anthropologists excitedly prepared for future cultural exchanges. And in orbit above the Earth, construction began on a new type of space station, one that would serve as a hub for both human and Zarthan ships, a symbol of their new alliance. As Captain Rodriguez stood at a podium before the United Nations, preparing to present the full report of their mission, she thought about how far they had come. From a simple rescue mission to the dawn of a new era of interstellar cooperation. She looked out at the eager faces before her, representatives from every nation on Earth, and began to speak. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, her voice clear and strong, "let me tell you about the friends we made among the stars and the incredible future that awaits us all." The universe, vast and full of wonders, awaited their next adventure.